Nachi, we can wait for 2 more minutes.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no problem.
So, guys, thanks for joining to a session Introduction to Android Auto by Anzit. So, Anzit is heading into new vertical on Android Auto, and this session will gives a overview about how Android Auto works. And this session been hosted by Mr. Nachiappan. Welcome, Nachiappan.
Yeah, thanks, Bishma. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So yeah, thank you. I'll share my screen.
Yes, please.
So you're able to see my screen?
Yes, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining on this Wednesday afternoon, and hope you all have already had a great week. And I know we are looking forward for the holidays. But today we have an interesting topic, which is like trending, and it's like kind of all the brands are focusing. Especially the automobile industry is going through a sea change in terms of digital transformation, and giving a better user experiences while driving, as well as giving a better comfort and mobility, and from generally from a great user perspective, right? So yeah, my name is Nachi, and I work as a solution architect. I specialize in front-end technologies like web and mobile, and also work on technologies like Android, iOS, React, Flutter, JavaScript, and primarily architect on the front end. And I love innovations, especially when it comes to like things like IoT and stuff like automobile industry, right? Yeah, once again, thank you for joining, and yeah. So change is the only constant. That's a perfect wording in terms of how the world has changed. If you see in the last 2 centuries, there's a massive change, right? If you really measure in the last 3,000 years, there's not been a much change. It's just the same kind of a kings ruling the country. And within the last 200 or 100 years, to be specific, there's a massive change, right? Change is the only constant that can drive for a better future, right? If you see like companies like if you can identify these companies like AOL, Yahoo, MSN, Netscape, right? Few other companies. So they were like pioneers in whatever they did in the last, like 10 or 15 years back. And now, you could see that they are nowhere in the map, right? And now you see companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon taking to the next level of technology transformation, right? So that's the difference of like always change is the only constant, and henceforth, like all the brands or the top brands always work towards the change and also digitally transforming the whole world for the better lives, right? So again, as he said, automobile industry is going through a drastic change, especially in technology, and I feel Android Auto is going to be one of the cherry on the top in terms of giving a better brand experience as well for the automobile, for the brands, right? And just before giving a quick intro about Android Auto, do you know why do we need a phone while driving? If you can just send few messages on the chat. Why do you really need a phone while driving in the car, or or any kind of an automobile? Can you guys give some answers on the chat, and that'll be interesting. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Okay, awesome. I hear a few answers. Awesome. Yeah, there's something like maps to navigate. I think someone was saying because I get a call from my partner, that's why I need a phone. That's really funny. But yeah, I think there are a lot of use cases why you need a phone while driving. You get calls, you get messages, you need to respond, right? You get notifications. You want to listen to music while going for a long drive. You want to watch a video. Your kids are bored. Your friends are bored while driving. When you go for a long drive, and there are many hundreds of use cases. Why do we need a phone while driving, right? But if you really see, is it safe for a driver, specifically to answer a call or a message, to respond to a message while driving? Definitely it is not, right? If you really think, do we need to compromise our safety, right? Yeah, definitely over the speaker, as someone said. But again, we are actually distracting while driving, though we have a phone with a holder. But if you really think, right, you always have an eye on the phone, irrespective of whether you get a call on the Bluetooth speaker, and you can definitely connect with the speaker. But at some point of time, though we are using speakers and we're using Bluetooth technology, there is always a space where the driver gets distracted, and there are tons of accidents, right? Yeah, so based on some statistics, using a cell phone while driving increases the driver's risk of causing a crash, right? For example, if you get an important call and before you even touch and you are passing a signal, right? What would happen if the Bluetooth connections and you want to just fix that? And someone comes in at the back, just corners you and hit on your back. So obviously there are like issues, and based on the statistics, there are significant number of accidents due to that, right? And drivers who text behind the wheel are like 23 times more likely to have an automobile crash. So having this and said, Google especially, thought about it and came up with something like I know this technology has been existing for some time, but it's kind of maturing in the last few years, and that's where the Android Auto has come in, right? So before we go into the introduction of Android Auto, I just want to cover what are we going to see. It's exciting if you guys stay on, and then you will learn a lot of. I hope you will get a lot of value from this 1 hour session, right? And then we can take it forward. So basically, there are like things I want to talk about, like how do you implement design for Android Auto? How do you implement media apps? What is like how do you customize navigation, right? What are the key principles of developing for Android Auto? And we will have a short demo of how you could do it with the Android Studio, right? Okay. So the vision for Android Auto is definitely a safe and seamless connected experience in every car. Though you could use kind of Bluetooth speaker, and you connect with Bluetooth and answer your phone calls. There are other use cases such as you want to navigate. You still want to touch your phone and see how do you reroute your driving, or if you want to answers a different thing, right? And if you want to interact with a phone, it's become extremely difficult. For example, you get a WhatsApp message from your boss. How would you do it even without touching the phone, right? So there is definitely, there are a few use cases you could do, like you could use voiceover, but that is something that, again, like going back, like the phone is specifically, if it falls down, and there are so many use cases that accidents happen because the device is extremely like small and then it's slippery, right? And even though you have a holder, you always have a point of distraction. Correct. So the vision for Google's Android Auto is basically a safe and a seamless connected experience in every car. So as long as we know, like there are a lot of brands that have come into play in the last 5 years, right? Let's go through that. And so before we go into that, basically, what is Android Auto? Android Auto is nothing but you connect your Android phone to a compatible vehicle and use Android Auto right on the car's display. So what is the difference from what we are doing right now? Right now, what we are doing is basically we are connecting to the Bluetooth speaker, or use the existing functionality of your head unit. But imagine, like, if brands wanted to customize and have their own apps, right, to enhance, and they know how their vehicle kind of operates, right, in terms of like how the features work and stuff like that. Imagine if the brands themselves customize those kind of applications and give an enhanced feel for the user, right? So that's where this Android Auto comes into play. So Android Auto enables developers to develop apps that support head units across brands. As we know, there are like approximately 36 markets that has been projected into, and 500 different car models and 50 plus brands already into play, right? And there are lot and in the queue, and they all want to jump into the trend and make a better user experience, right? In terms of how do you customize this and how do you get a better user experience, right? This is um, basically some of the list who are like pioneering into this Android Auto. Some of them are like more than 50 brands, I would say, but a lot of car models are already having it, and even in India there are a lot of models that are actually supporting Android Auto as well, right? So you can see all the companies like Maserati, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Nissan, BMW, right, Land Rover, and even in some of the models from Maruti Suzuki started supporting Android Auto, which is like exciting, right? Yeah, again, like as just to summarize, like for a great user experience for the drivers, brands want to develop their own brand specific apps and customize based on their user demographic. For example, users in US might have a different taste rather than what users in India go through, right? So basically they can actually customize the apps based on geography as well as the culture and stuff like that. So there is a lot of gateway to do humongous things in terms of Android Auto. So there are two different technologies that probably today only we are going to cover about Android Auto. But there is a closer technology which is also Android Automotive, right? Android Auto is basically you connect your phone to the DHU, and then your apps automatically kind of shadowed on the DHU, right? Whereas Android Automotive, there is no phone required. It's automatically built in, and that's also a powerful platform. The great thing about these two platforms is most of the APIs and SDKs that Google has released, right? Both are kind of compatible with both, except for a few differences. Like kind of how does media appear, how does navigation. So those are different types of differences, but 90 to 95% both are like same, correct? So Android Automotive is like built-in DHU, and Android OS is installed, and you could actually install the apps from Play Store and over there updates and stuff like that. Whereas Android Auto is plugging your device into DHU. Okay. So this is what we earlier saw, like how do we how do we differentiate developing for Android Auto? Primary task is always safety, and the primary task is always to look ahead on the road and say, okay, I want to first focus on the road, and then my secondary task is kind of just tap or voice over, or use Google Assistant, or kind of Siri in iPhone, to just say, okay, play this music for me, right? And that way your focus is always on the wheels, and that's why you drive cars. You ensure your safety as well as the safety of the others, right? And this is why the Android Auto's main focus is all about, and giving a greater user experience. You don't have to have a folder on your dashboard, sorry, holder on your dashboard, and keep nudging on it, or keep playing on it. You just connect your phone and everything should be available on your DHU head unit. Okay. So it provides a smarter and safer way to use your phone while you drive. You can get directions. There are numerous use cases. For example, if you want to drive, you want to brand your directions. You don't want to use Google Maps. You want to brand your directions. You want to, kind of, say, okay, hey, I'm driving like 200 miles. It learns, like, for example, even if you can like integrate machine learning into it, and it knows like where you want to stop during your office for a coffee and stuff like that. You can completely customize, and it keeps opening the gates for use cases, right? And it should automatically know what's your favorite music, and once you, for example, there is use case, once you start and after even 10 minutes it's automatically started playing your favorite music from your phone, right? Okay, I have a small video, hope that plays. Yeah. So Android Auto has been going through numerous revisions in terms of how developers can develop it, and you can see how beautiful it is, like in terms of fluid, responsive design, and the in terms of UX, right? In terms of how the user feels, and how they feel comfortable with using this Android Auto as a technology, right? If you see Google Maps, it's like you can even customize Google Maps to a certain point, and then say, okay, hey, this brand, for example, BMW wants this kind of customization, and you can completely customize this look and feel of this, right? So that's a major advantage. And I have seen, like, it has gone through a lot of transformation. When I researched on like when did it start, or how it was basic before, and how they have enhanced the APIs and SDKs to a large extent. Okay. Okay, there are already default apps that supports Android Auto. For example, you could use WhatsApp, you could use Messenger, you could use Telegram, right? You could use Spotify. Spotify is a famous app in US that for you kind of listen to your music, and you could read news, you could message, or you could have your custom notifications and all the stuff like media player. And imagine that you build a specific media app like a Spotify, right? For a brand, that is like massive, right? You create your own app and deploy it for a brand, and that gives a premium user experience, and they know that the users understand that brands know how the people feel like when they see it, and it's kind of promoting the brand as well, right? Okay, so we go slightly into the depth, like how the DHU, kind of, I mean, how the Android Auto app is kind of primarily divided into. The top portion is like your phone, which says like a status bar, which shows your battery, your signal strength, your what is the weather, and what's the time. And the main area is the app content area. So whichever code you write for Android Auto will go into this, and also you can enable or disable this, um, the top and the nav bar, right? And you can see the controls that we showed, like number 3, which is number 3, right? And you could always pause, you could fast forward, you can always use Google Assistant, which I'm going to show you shortly. um, yeah, okay. So primarily 3 sections, again: status bar, app content area bar, and nav bar. So navbar, as I mentioned, this has a lot of controls, and you can just tap on it, or you can speak like stop the music, or play your favorite song, and you can even customize it to completely move your touch, or any kind of thing that distracts the driver. Okay, and there is also a notification bar on the top. Whenever you get a notification, it pops out on there. So there are questions like, for example, what will happen if the DHU is too distractive, right? You can always disable and, go back to your phone, but it's just the brand and, Google is working together to see like how we can minimize the distraction. So let's assume that this to be the first step towards that, right? And it's not in any way not matured enough, right? And this is the first step, and this has been proven successful by the brands, and people like it based on the user testing that they have done, right? Okay, again, we saw like notifications appearing. For example, someone sends a message, you could see it on the DHU. You don't have to kind of um, respond to it, or you can even turn off the reminders. It's the same exactly like phone, but it's specifically designed and developed for head unit. Okay. So it's almost the same widget. So each app has its own widget. For example, in Maps, you could see that you have to turn right in 1,000 feet from Charleston Road. And for a different app, for example, a media app, the bottom portion will be completely different. So these are called widgets, and these widgets you should be able to customize or develop it on your own. Okay. Okay, again, coming back to media player, you could develop this own skin depending on the brand. For example, for BMW, you could actually kind of design it completely using BMW icons. You can have it blue and black, and you can, customize this whole kind of layout. Right now it shows horizontal, but you can make it grid, you can make it tile, you can scroll down, right? And you can always, use this all these controls to make it more effective in terms of if you want to play something. You just talk to it and automatically it starts playing and stop. So this is called a media player, and there are few APIs, and there are many APIs, and kind of available for the media apps, which we will cover during subsequent sessions. But this is just to give you a quick intro of how you could play with the Android Auto, and see how you like it, right? And this is more of an intro session. Okay, so you could see how it is like effectively, kind of automatically it is, you could either use voice to navigate, which I'll show you shortly. And like you can automatically have those reservations, and you can completely customize this map. One aspect with Google Maps is like, you do have APIs to customize it, but this is more effective, right? Like in terms of defining points. For example, you can mark your points on the office, and it will tell you how long will it take on the traffic. Those you have to discover in the Google Map, whereas here you can just keep it as a use case, and it shows an estimate. So you could always develop those widgets that's beneficial for the user, right? Okay. So yeah, coming back to key principles of Android Auto, there are a few principles definitely we need to make sure before we indulge into development. First is, as I said, safety is first. First is design for driving. Okay, so there are certain rules and principles that we ensure while we design for driving. First is keep it really current and glanceable. We don't have to distract the driver with too much information, or difficult to navigate, or kind of having a hidden control where they have to swipe or they have to touch. We have to really minimize, make the targets easy to touch. For example, it has to be on the center, or it has to be big. So those are some of the design principles that are clearly called out by Google in terms of distractions, and making it easy for the user to use this Android Auto while driving. And also encourage always hands-on driving, in terms of like you don't have to touch, you always use voice based applications, right? For example, you could use Siri in iPhone, though it's not Android Auto, but they have something similar which is called a CarPlay, right? And Android Auto does use Google Assistant, voice assistant, and always use voice assistant as a support for Android Auto. So any app that we develop, the key design principles have to support like voice, right? For example, say, okay, I want to go to can you show me the directions, how to go to an airport? So automatically it recognizes, and it shows you the directions to the airport. So this is the first design principle that is extremely important in terms of Android Auto. Like how do you, implement for a layout, or how do you develop an app in terms of UX principles or a design principle? So the second principle is an adaptive framework. In terms of for example, some of the head units will be smaller, some of them will be bigger, some of them will be, the width will be more, or the height will be more. How it's going to be adaptive, right? For example, let's assume that you have an kind of a list here, like list of media, like items, right? Like videos and audios, and it doesn't fit, so it doesn't give a good user experience. So what Android Auto app should do is automatically fit based on the head unit size, and that's why it is called an adaptive framework. um, right? For example, if it is a smaller head unit, have like a single tile. If it is a very small head unit, just have a single tile. If it is a slightly medium-sized head unit, just have like two. And if it's like a bigger, then you will have multiple layouts. So you can define those how you want to design the app. It's exactly similar like how you do it for for example, website, right? The websites also have like adaptive framework which you want to fit in for different device sizes, like resolutions, right? Again, as I mentioned, I think voice optimist is one of the key out of all the four design principles that I see. I think voice optimized stands first, right? And that's exactly because like we don't want to distract the user. You would need to allow users to search via speech to text, right? For example, if you want to play Beyonce, you just say play Beyonce, and you shouldn't be scrolling or searching or typing. You don't have time, or you will be distracting the driver to a large extent. Basically, even if you type B for Beyonce, it's going to take a half a second, right? And that half a second could be crucial for either an accident occurring or not. So we have to negate that. And that's why for every Android Auto applications, voice optimist is going to be the key. As I said, also like machine learning, artificial intelligence will also come into play. And um, it's not related, but in terms of like new technology and understanding the behavior of the user, it can display all this list, right? Okay. So yeah, based on the how does Android Auto architecture, it's a very high level, how does it work? Basically, it's just extremely simple, right? We just plug in the Android device to the USB port, and the head units is definitely connected through HDMI or SPI, and then um, basically what happens is the data gets transferred through this port and get shadowed over here. Right, the APIs do, the brands that support this Automotive OS or Auto OS, um, use those native SDK languages to speak through the phone, and then communicate through this head unit protocols, right? So internally, I'm not going into depth, but this is a very high level of exactly how it should work. For example, once you start connecting, you wouldn't see any traction on your phone, so you don't have to do anything. It's everything is here. Either you could place it on your you can actually modify this head unit, and the brands do that. I mean, they're in terms of researching like where you want to really put this, right? And yeah, this is how it works. Like, and you have automatically OK Google connected through IO, which I spoke about, which is the voice assistant, right? And all of these are connected in terms of like communication between the data, in terms of commands, in terms of like internal protocols, right? And you don't have to adjust your volume or anything on your phone. It's automatically picked up from your head unit system. Okay. Okay, just moving on to next, just giving you time to kind of look through. And yeah. Okay, I think so I've covered most of my slides, but I feel free to kind of go through the questions. It's a basic intro, and I want to spend more time on the demo. That's because I want to just establish some of the important principles of how to develop for Android Auto, right? Yeah, just give me a second while I set up. Okay. You're still able to see my screen, or?
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay. Just I'm going to just give me 1 second. I'm just sharing my desktop. Okay, still you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So basically, I'm using Android Studio for Android Auto development. This is the default IDE to develop for Android Auto. You can download Android Studio from Android developer portal, right? And it's open source, and you can play around with it. But for today's course, I'm just going to go through and kind of create and copy the contents and go through few Android Auto app, and I want to show it to you on the screen as well. Okay. So this is the IDE. It's very similar to people who have worked with Eclipse or any other IDE like Visual Studio or anything. It's extremely similar, but I mean not Visual Studio, at least Eclipse, right? Because obviously Android Studio came from Eclipse, right? So all we do is like Google has provided a lot of flexibility in terms of the new IDE Android Studio to develop for Android Auto. So all we have to do is go to File, New, and then let's assume that we are creating a new project on Android Auto. So you have different templates to start with. For example, if you want a phone application, you can do it on phone. You can do for watch. Today we are going to do for kind of auto. So if you see bare minimum, there are two templates. One is called a media service. The other one is called a messaging service. There are a few other. For example, there is obviously like navigation and stuff like that. I think Google is still preparing those, but you have some APIs you can use for customizing all these, right? So what this templates will do is it will give you a bare minimum code to start off with, so you don't have to do a lot of tinkering while doing the code. You just have to kind of start with bare minimum and build on top of that, right? For example, let's go here and say no activity for now, which means that there is no screen. You could always do with media service and messaging service. What this will do is it will actually create a template for you, which I'll show it to you after this, right? And you could always say no activity to start off with. You could always you can put any name for your project. We could put something interesting like car drive or something like that. Some problem with my keyboard. Let me try it again. It's not allowing me to type. Okay, let's leave it as it is. But let's, for package name, it's basically like I think still there's a problem. Okay. Something. Okay, let me name it as com.car.sample. Right. We have my auto, right? And automatically it's using a language called Kotlin. I think you can research on it. Kotlin is one of the favorite languages nowadays. It's like, people must have worked on Java, must have worked on C#, must have worked on JavaScript. But I think Kotlin is like, promoted by Google a lot in terms of like language for development for different technologies, right? For example, you could develop for mobile, you can develop for web, you can develop for auto. And this is something that Google is promoting heavily. Okay. So minimum SDK is like operating system of your Android. You could always choose a different one, but the latest one is 30, right? The latest Google OS version, API version is 30, but right now I have 28 and 29. You can always go default, right? Or whichever it appears on your list of your Android Studio, you can possibly, if you download it now, you would get 30. Okay, and then you can just say finish. So basically what it will do is it will create all those bare minimum files in terms of creating an Android application. And what we are going to do is we are going to include few more things to support Android Auto. You can see it's creating. So while it loads, I can show you the structure which I already done. So basically, you will have something like a manifest file. You can say it is like a configuration file, right? So configuration file is an XML file. Uh, Post this, I could send some link, and we'll communicate on how do we send the sample to you, right? You can always play with that, but this is how it looks like. Basically, you have your configuration file, which is your XML file, and then it has its application. And always it starts with a service, and the name of the service is, for example, I've just mentioned this handset service. So this service is a file. I'll go through the file. It's very relatively simple, right? So don't get alarmed by those terms. It's just you're referring a code file here, and that file will be the start of your Android Auto app, right? And this is something like a default that comes with Android Studio itself, so you don't have to worry too much about it. The only important thing on this configuration, the whole of the configuration, are two things. One is, you say that it is an Android Auto app by saying, okay, you have a template named Android Auto. That is one. And the second part is you are saying you are using a feature which supports automotive, right? For example, you want to support cars heavy on it. So that's why you always say android.hardware.type.automotive. So these are standard template. So you don't have to specifically, remember all this. Once you start creating this Android Auto, right now it is not creating these two. We may just have to copy that. But in the sample that I will provide, these will be there, right? So these are the two key things in terms of configuration. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now the project is created. I want to do it from scratch so you guys are aware. So right now let's compare this configuration and the already created configuration. So you can see, because we selected the Android Automotive template, it automatically created this, right? And all you have to do is include few other things. But before including that, let's create some files to start off with. Okay. So this is the package that we created. If you remember, I typed on the description com.car.sample, right? For now, just for simplicity, we will create a single screen that shows a list of items, right? And then I'll go through another sample which shows the different things as well. Okay. So for now, we'll create a Kotlin file class because this is a preferred language in terms of Android Auto. You could use Java if someone knows Java, but I think Kotlin is the latest technology that Google promotes, right? So you always stick with Kotlin. And let's name it exactly the same thing, right? And we could say, okay, first we will create a service. Okay, we will say automotive service. And while I copy this, it's extremely simple to kind of understand. Okay, so basically this is a service that starts when your application is booting onto the head unit. Okay, so because we have this name of this service as automotive service, we need to rename this. And this is by default comes from Google. It's all red because I have not added the dependencies for the project, right? So quickly we are going to add this. I already have this, so we don't have to do that. I'll explain those dependencies shortly. Sorry, it's taking some time because machine is getting slower. So what it does, basically this does is it creates those dependencies and have those dependencies installed within the project workspace. So whenever you say Android Auto, it automatically picks the APIs from these dependencies. Okay, that's all you would need to know about. So there are few dependencies. For example, this is the library that has been published, the latest library from Google. And if you use this library, you can use those APIs to create the Android Auto application. Okay. So you have to sync it, because once you define those dependencies, you would have to sync to the project, which means it's getting updated with the file references, and you can use those APIs. So you can see that it is going to take some time. Okay, so this code I will explain. Basically what it says, when you're creating the service, you just have to create one screen. On create of screen, this is the method, and you are just returning that service with a car context. Okay, car context is nothing but you are saying, okay, it's the within the namespace of the Android Auto itself. So pick that for this service. All it says is, okay, reboot the app, or launch the app from the specific place, and we are going to see that. Mm, it should be a screen. So right now we don't have this file, if you see. So the sequence is like this. First it starts with the service, then the service invokes the automotive screen, right? So we are just going to copy the screen. Screen is also a very simple code. There is nothing much in this code if you really see, right? Okay, I'm just going to copy, sorry. Okay, so I've created a service. If you see, I've created a screen, and all of them are plugged in. So basically what the screen does is it creates a template. Okay, there are few APIs that supports this template in terms of Android Auto. One is the pane template, which means a pane. If you can imagine like a rectangle pane. And within that pane, we are adding two rows to it, like a table, right? You must have used like table rows and columns. So you could add two rows. First one says message number one, second row says message number two, and you're building it. And then you're saying, use a app icon by default. You can also change all of this, right? You can change the complete layout. Just for simplicity, I'm just having those two messages to be shown on the head unit, right? So two things we have done. One is, three things we have done. First is updating the configuration to support it, which I will do right now. Right? I think we are not done that. So we just, if you use a sample, you don't have to do it from scratch. That's why I'm copying to just save some time, right? You go again here to configuration, right? You need to include that as part of this. Yeah, delete this. And what we have is an automotive servers. And we need one more XML file, which is just to display the template, right? We just need to copy this. So these are standard templates, so you don't have to really worry like what it does for now, but you just have to start with a bare minimum and then start developing for Android Auto. Okay, I think it's okay. I think I've just one. Give me 1 second. Stress. Yeah, I think now it's perfect. So yeah, I think 4 changes, right? First is configuration. Then you create a simple service that boots up the application. Then the service will call the screen internally. The screen will have 2 messages. You can add any messages just to test, right? And once you do that, just add this file just to say we are using this automotive app template, right? Just to say it's a template, right? So I think now we are all set, and what it should basically display is, if you go to the screen, we are displaying 2 things. One is like message number 1, message number 2. So let me connect. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting my Android phone to the laptop. um, and I will show you the screen how it looks. So basically, I imagine that I've connected my Android phone to the head unit. Now it is connected. Now I'm going to run this application, right, that we have. So first, what you do is you just rebuild your project to make sure there is no compilation errors. So for the first time, always it takes a lot of time to build. Um, yeah. So it is successful. Okay, so that's why it says it's. So basically, you see a red here which says, if you click on it, it says minimum SDK is 28 and device SDK is 26, which means the device that I'm using, like my Android phone, has a lesser version. So I would need to go back and update this version to a minimum version. Okay. So if I go here, yeah, you can see it uses 26, 28. My phone is 26, so I just change it and just sync it again. So if you make any changes to any of this dependency files, you will get an option in Android Studio to sync it. So you would have to sync it. Now you can see it is turned into green, right? So let me start the application, and let's see what's going on here. Yeah. So now it's going to install the app, but I have not started even the head unit, right? We don't have a head unit. I just connected my phone onto my laptop, but we need a head unit. So what basically you need to you need to run a command. Possibly we will give a list of steps to do it, but right now what I'm doing is I'm just starting the head unit. This is actually an emulator. Emulator is it will emulate. It's not a real device head unit. I don't have a device head unit. I just have an emulator to show how it works, right? So imagine that the phone's communication or data is being passed to the head unit, and whatever we install here from the Android Studio is directly going into the head unit through the phone. Okay. So before we do this, we just kind of pass the port. Um, what it does is, whatever is going to install on the phone, it's going directly to the head unit. That's why it says it's using the port of 5277. These are the 2 steps that you need to do, but apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. Now I'm just going to start the head unit and see what's going on there. Okay, I think it started now. Yes, you can see that it's initializing, and you get all the communications through your terminal. So by default, this one is up, but if you come down, you could see all the apps that I've worked with in the last 2 days. You could see Answer Test. You could see Hello World. You could see some of the apps that I've done, right? And you can always scroll down. So you can always scroll down and see this is the one that we developed, right? My Android Auto. So it is also appearing. You can customize all this, like how this icon looks. Imagine that this app is actually displaying on your head unit, and you can customize it to any level, right? Once you click on it, and you get the 2 messages. So just to prove it, right, I have some navigation enabled. I need to stop that. Okay. So just to prove that it works, let's go and change one of them, right? coffee break in 30 minutes. Starbucks. Okay. Let's add this and let's remove this. Right, and let's run it again and make sure the device is connected, and already the head unit is running here. You can see I'm just highlighting head unit is running. And let's wait for a couple of minutes. Usually it's faster, but sometimes it does take some time, depending on whether it downloads a dependency or not. Okay, so now, yeah. So now it says error, but that's fine. You can exit. You can exit out, and yeah, you would need to do you would need to restart for some reason, because these APIs are still maturing, and like Google is still working on some of the nuances, right? So what you would do, you would need to start it again. Yeah, let's go here. Restarting it again. Let's see if it is installed the latest version, because we made those changes here. Okay, let's go here. Let's go here. Yeah, you got it. Like, take a coffee break in 30 minutes, right? So basically, this is like a hello world. Also, you can play, like I said, like, I've enabled this.
Not sure how to help with. Hello World also can play like a satellite winner.
Yeah. So right now it is not plugged in, so that's why it's saying whatever it says. So there are other apps that I played with, and you can also take a look, right? I'll show you those. For example, this is a list that you want to show to a user. For example, you want to select one of the options, you can use that. For example, notification came in, and you will say start notification, right? So you get a notification like this. So you can develop like a like a lot of lot of things that it's extremely useful. There are many APIs. For example, you can completely customize the navigation that I mentioned, right? And so it does take time. Yeah, so you can see like this is properly customized, and you can even brand it, and you can add many number of features. For example, Starbucks, you can have your own pointer to office, and you will learn the user, and automatically route them to their favorite places during the weekend. So a lot of possibilities are there in terms of like developing for Android. Cool. Yeah, I think so that's it. And if you want to try it out, use the Android Studio and then download the sample that possibly will send it. And only four or five file changes that I made, which are very simple, and there's nothing complex in it. And these are standard like code. For example, these functions, you can get it like for from a sample, and you can just play around with it. You can build a list, you can build a media player, you can build a navigation, and possibly in future you can go through in details how you can make it really effective, right? And this follows all the basic principles that we saw before, like minimize touch, build for the user, don't distract the user, always encourage user to be the hands on the wheels, and all those principles. Yeah. So I think with that said, I think I'm done with my presentation now. Do you have any questions? You can all chat here, and I can answer those questions.
So guys, please let us know if you have any queries. There is a query from YouTube, Nachi.
Okay.
Can we connect Android Auto through Bluetooth or USB connection is required?
For now, USB is required, but we anticipate in 2021 Google is doing something with Bluetooth connection as well, where you can share the protocol is being shared over the Bluetooth, but it's still in development phase. But right now, we will need to use USB. As we said, like this is a starting point, and it's wide open to imagine a lot of use cases, and Google is actively working on this to kind of deploy a lot of features in the near future, and this is one of them. That's a really great question to answer, and that's in plan for 2021, 2022.
So in the chat window, you can see two questions. Do you want me to read or?
So I heard Android Auto needs Bluetooth plus USB. You would need to enable Bluetooth for definitely you would need to enable Bluetooth plus USB, but what they are working is they want to negate this USB so they don't have to connect, and thereby you just have to develop Android Auto apps and deploy it on your phone and connect through Bluetooth. You would not need an USB, but for now, yes, you would need Bluetooth plus USB. That's correct. Just imagine like this is this is the first phase, and obviously there will be a lot of evolution onto it. Yeah. When can we expect Wi-Fi? I would say definitely 1 or 2 years down the line, but as of now, it is like through the USB and Bluetooth. Yeah. So all these are great questions. Thanks for the participations. It's really great. Any guide to create emulator specifically? That's a superb question, which I kind of missed it on my presentation. Um, so basically, let me share my screen again, and we could do it. That's a really great question that I just wanted to show, but I missed out. Yeah. Okay. So you can see here, you have different options to, I clicked on this mobile on Android Studio, right? And you have an template for emulator, which is Android Auto. You can also create a virtual device by clicking on create virtual device. You select Automotive, and then you select this. You select next. Right now it is not showing, but you will get an option which shows all these APIs. And because I don't have the latest API, it doesn't show an option here, but you will get like 3 or 4 options. You just select onto it and click next. You will get an emulator, and then you by default you can select the emulator. You don't have to select the emulator here. You would need to select your device here, which is connected to the Android Studio. You should have an Android physical device that is connected. So once this application installs through the device, it gets promoted. It gets communicated to the virtual device, right? So once you download this emulator, this would be available, and you go to your command line if you're using Windows, and then you can search for desktop head unit for Android Studio. You will get it. You download it, and then you can start it. And automatically, you don't have to do any other steps except for downloading it and just starting this desktop head unit. And then forwarding the port that I mentioned, which I can paste it on the chat that you can use it for your future reference. Right. Let me kill this so you get that option. Yeah. Because I have opened a lot of windows, that's why it is very slow right now. So yeah, let me type on the chat, how you can do it. Otherwise, it's extremely slow for me here. So any other questions you guys have? Happy to help.
What can be the AA royalty charges? What about the career and
you can see the answers on the chat that I'm saying. So these are the two things that are required. So once you run this, then automatically your things will get connected, and you can see your Android Auto popping up. Right. What about the carrier in this field? What can be the AA royalty charges? I'm not 100% sure. I can get back to you, Meenakshi. And probably we need to talk to Google, but it's an exciting field to be in, and they love developers who are helping them to promote this and work for the better experiences in terms of API as well, in terms of feedback. So that's a great question, and possibly we need to get in touch with Google for that. What about the career in this field? It's exciting, and you could develop apps. This is like exciting, and not many people are into this. So this is like a pioneering thing. Not really pioneering, but you are like leading the gang, right? Kind of thing. So if you invest your time into this and kind of do that, I see a lot of future, because the the technology or the digital transformation in the car itself is evolving, and you hear about electric vehicles, and in terms of head unit, there is massive transformation. So I think that's a great thing. It could be a great addition to whatever you do right now. Any other questions? So Bhishma, I think
Yeah, Nachi. So on behalf of ANZIT, we thanking you for this wonderful session, Nachi. It been a really eye opener for us about the Android Ad too, and it should be useful for all the audience also.
all right, perfect. Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Thanks again to Ansett for providing me this opportunity, and the participants. I got a lot of messages, and extremely thank you. And um, yeah, feel free to reach out in case of any questions. We are happy to help you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good evening.